Just a couple of days until team lists. How exciting, guys. Here we are back in for another video. We're going to be going through a few questions that I've got sent in to me, and also just talking a little bit about those that play in some draft leagues. And I'm going to go through a top 25 picks as to who I would select in those drafts, and it's going to be a little bit interesting with that. But firstly, we're going to start with our questions, and our first one is going to be just talking about the best positions to spend your money. So I usually speak about trying to spend a lot of your money up top in the hookers, mids, and edges, and that's mainly for the fact that this is the most stable position. As we know, going through the season, we make a lot of stupid decisions, and if you got most of your money tied up top, they're a little bit more consistent in their scoring, that 50 to 60 type of players, which is really helpful for your mindset. We know how many trades that we usually make in the centers and wing fullback, and so this is going to be really helpful to spend your money up top, and that's as I said, usually, right? Each year is a bit different, and we've got to have a look at where the value plays are going to be, where the best guns are, and the ones that have the clearest outlook in their position. So you can think of someone like Cleary. His position's set. He's only getting better as a player, and he should be averaging somewhere close to his 72 that he's at right now. 68, 72, doesn't really matter, right? You look at someone like Damien Cook in the hooking position. A lot of teams have guys on their benches that are going to come on and take 10 to 15 minutes, or we're not exactly sure at this stage, but someone like Cook is really set in his structure there. McInnes was someone who was also going to be playing 80 minutes and doing really well in that kind of structure. You look at Tedesco, you know exactly what he's going to get. You know what Crichton's going to get. Taumalo, we've been told going to have a few less minutes, but he's going to play the exact role. Madison, same thing. Harris, pretty certain of the type of role he's going to get, but once you get down a little bit lower with some of these guns, we're not sure how they're going to go, if they're going to be super consistent or not. So that's something to really think about when spending your money. It's also going to be about sorting out where the value is. As we said, in the mids is where a fair bit of the value is at the moment, but we'll have to wait till team list. There's also a lot of guys in this center position around in those 300k mark, around 350, 400. So that might be really ideal. Interesting to see at the wing fullbacks what happens at team list. If Dane Laurie and those kind of guys don't get picked, then you might have to spend a little bit more money down the bottom there in a Tedesco, Pappenhausen, Brimson, these types of players, just so that your team's a lot safer and you're not getting into the trap of just making too many trades across the season. Yes, that's my thoughts on that one, guys. Please hit like if you're enjoying this, subscribe if you're new. Really appreciate it. Best thing to do pre-team list Tuesday. So my most important things is just building, obviously, the knowledge on most of the players in the game. But then if you're looking at the hooker position, I'd be having 5 to 6 players that you'd be interested in bringing into your side, because things are going to change a lot. You would have obviously put together all your team. This is the people's squad. We haven't made our team yet, but you would have made that team and selected all these guys currently. But what's going to happen is you're going to have to make some changes come team list, and having a few extra guys at different prices is going to be really helpful for that. Same with your mids. I'd have six or seven different mids that I'd be interested in, a bunch of really top line guns and a couple of middles, and also some cash cows there, and then very similar with all the rest. I think that's going to be the easiest thing to do at this stage of the preseason, just to make sure that when team list comes and a bunch of your players aren't playing, that you don't have to blow up your entire team and start studying again and work it all out in just for the fact that we've only got a couple of days before round one. So that's something I think that's extremely important at the start of the season, just to make sure that you're ready to go and you're not panicking come Thursday's game one, given the fact that it's much closer than it used to be. And our last one is going to be, what's your criteria when selecting a mid-range player? So for me, a mid-ranger, you want them to be pumping out at least 10 extra points than what they're valued at. If we look at someone like a Christian Welch, if he's averaged at 40, I need him to be hitting at least a 50 average for him to be worth it. All right, a 50 average in the mids is probably not going to be your top line keeper. If we have a look at what they did last year. So we've got a couple in the 70s and then a bunch up around the 60 and 55 mark. So these are the kind of, probably all the way down to Trob, and Nathan Brown is probably the furthest you'll go for a mid, the lowest you'll go. So for Welch, he's not going to be a keeper, and you'd want him to at least be averaging that 10 extra points so you can get about 150k's worth of value. The other option is bringing in someone like a Takiaho, who's a 50 average, and then they're going to hopefully move up into the 55 to 60 bracket, where you can call them a keeper. So if they're only going to gain about 5 points in their average or in their price, then them moving up into that keeper status is enough for you to select that type of mid-ranger. Obviously, a bunch of the other guys that are in like the 400s, if we look at Jackson Forwards and these type of guys, so obviously Welsh is 537. If he goes up to a 50 average, he gains, where are the 50s guys? At 670. So yeah, about 140k to get him up to that point. And then we've got a bunch of guys that are in the 400s, for example. They're priced around the 30. If they're getting that extra 10 to 15 points, you're wanting to move them on around the buy schedule or just before that, once they've hit their totals. And these guys, if they're having a consistent 6 games, scoring similar amount, it'll only take those 6 games for their rolling average to catch up to, and their break even to catch up and to be even and to be priced at exactly what they're scoring. So that's something to keep in mind, and that's going to be a good time hopefully to move on a few of these cash cows. If they're someone that has a 5 to 6 week slot in the team, then that could be a good time to move them on. Next, we're going to move on to our draft day. So go back to all positions. Oops. Alrighty. Scroll it back to the top, and we'll go through what I'd do on draft day if I was playing in a draft. So my first selection is definitely going to be Nathan Cleary. Definitely the best half by 8 points. His role is not going to change too much. There's a chance that DCE loses a few kick meters, for example, with Foran being on the left there. McInnes is out. Haas is out for the start of the season and should be playing a few less minutes. So Cleary is definitely the number one option. My second option would be Angus Crichton. So with him being a middle and an edge, he has that dual position. I think he should be averaging somewhere between 65 and 68 this year. I feel like he's going to improve. And given the fact that he has that dual position, he's going to be really important for a lot of teams. My third pick is actually going to be James Tedesco. So he's clearly the best wing fullback. And I feel like this is a really good chance to pick him up early on in the draft and make sure you have one of the wing fullbacks. With Ponga out for the first little bit, it's good to have a good scoring wing fullback there, with him clearly best amongst his peers. My next one would be Damien Cook, given the fact I think he can average 65 plus this year. He's clearly the best hooker, especially with Harry Grant out early, and I would be taking him in that first hooking role spot in your draft. I then move to DCE, so clearly your second best half. The next one comes down with Mitch Moses at 57, so a 7 point difference there, and I think he's really important to bring in. Even if he averages a couple points less, around 62, he's still going to be a great option for your side. So my next selection in the draft is going to be Payne Haas. Even though he's going to be out for the first few games, I think he is someone that's going to be averaging at 65 to 68, somewhere there for this year, and he has to be brought into your team fairly early in the draft. What you want to think of with guys that are actually injured or suspended at the start of the season is that they're going to be back for you in the business end when it really counts. So if you can get through those first few games without him and try and win at least half of them or something like that, even if you're picking someone like that really early, I think he's going to be really helpful for you in the back end and do really well. So we're going to have a couple of guys like that across these draft selections. So just keep that in mind. Next guy is going to be Tohu Harris, another guy that's dual position in the middle and the edge. Given the fact there's not a whole lot of edge guns, I think it's important to get these guys in fairly quickly into your team. And the only reason I have him over Madison is the fact that he's got the dual position and can help you out if you have injuries across the season. Next one will be Madison. Probably only slightly underneath Tohu Harris with his role and what I think he'll score, but I think they'll sit around that 60 points this year. Next one's going to be Harry Grant, so pretty close to someone like Coruscant, but I think Grant has the potential to average closer to 65 across the season, and I think will be a little bit of a better choice than Coruscant, even though he's going to be out for the first few weeks. So he comes in next for me. I'm then going to go with Kalen Ponga. So clearly the second best wing fullback, but have to pick Tedesco much earlier just for the fact that the Ponga is out for the first bunch of weeks, and we'll have to see how he comes back, if he's fit or not. Then we're going to go with Coruscant at 60.1 average, priced at 805. I think he's a great option. Clearly the next best hooker. We then move on to Mitch Moses. As I said, the next best half. There's a chance that he averages close to 60 or above and could do really well for your squad. We then move to a couple of our big dogs in Isaiah Yeo and Taumalolo. So both guys that I think will average around this number at 58. Lolo has the better fantasy pedigree, so you might want to pick him up first. I don't see him averaging much lower than 56 or 57 for Tamalolo, but him and Yo in there. Our next best hooker is going to be Andrew McCulloch, so someone who's a fair bit down further. But given the fact that I think he's going to be playing 80 minutes, and if he stays injuries free, he should be scoring around 60 points. He has to be in this top sort of 10 to 15 players. Next one's going to be David Fafita. Same thing, priced at 54, but I think he's going to have a great chance to be one of the top edge players and could average closer to 60. But at this stage, we're not sure, so he has to come behind a couple of the guys like Yo and Lolo. But another good option in your edge position. We then have some safer guys like Jake Trbojevic, Tyson Frizzell in our forwards. As you can see, guys, there's a lot of forwards there. So if you were tempted to bring in an extra half, go down to the centers or even the wing fullbacks to pick up a few guys, then please do. But I think it's the most important thing to do in the drafts to pick up those guys that are going to be a chance to average the highest across the year. Obviously, that's self-explanatory, but some people will go for the centers and stuff a bit too early. I think when there's a bunch of guys that could average pretty similar to those numbers in the centers. So those are the next few guys. We then move on to Nathan Brown at 54.8 average. There's a chance that he can average a little bit more, and I think he's going to be a good option for your mid position. We then move on to someone like Cam Murray to round out our top 20, just being the dual position and a good chance of scoring really well there. Currently at 54. I think there's a chance that he can average 55 or 56 and do really well being dual position as well, and being able to interchange with those guys like Crichton or Tohu if you get to pick them up. And then I think we move on to a few of the wing fullbacks who are averaging pretty close to 50 for a bunch of them. So your Pappenhausen, Brimson, RTS, and then you can even think of someone like a Zach Lomax in this sort of pick as well, as your clear top center. So those are kind of the guys I'd be interested in picking up and thinking about in that first 25 in the draft. Let me know if you have any more questions about the draft. I had a few about that, so just wanted to get some content out about that one. But there you go, guys. If you've, as I said, if you've got any questions, please let me know. But I'm sure I'll get a lot of questions after the team list on Tuesday. So good luck over the next few days with selecting your side, and good luck with your team in regards to team list. But as I say, guys, if you enjoyed this, please hit like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And if not, we'll have a good one, guys. See you later.